Welcome to Mediumship Moments with psychic medium Kim Durham. Join her as she shares her personal journey with mediumship, connects with your loved ones, and discusses topics dealing with spirituality.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mediumship Moments. I'm your host, Kim Durham, psychic medium, and I am thrilled to continue the mediumship and murder series today with our esteemed guest, Amy McCormick. She's a former ABC News reporter and is now a true crime author. So welcome. Hello. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled we get to do this again outside of working on cases. So it's Annie and I have had this rapport where we've paralleled different cases. And I thought it would be really neat to get to my listeners and viewers an opportunity to see behind the curtain, so to speak, about what it's like to be a news reporter, how a case comes to you, how they would handle it. And then we'll talk later about your shift and becoming an author. So one of the cases that I worked on was the Shane Montgomery case in Manioc, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And that case came to me through a family member who heard about who I am, knew about my mom, and brought that case to me to work on it. How does a case come to you as a reporter?
Well, back then, because this is now going back
12 years.
12 years ago, when I was working at Action News, we work on shifts. Not a lot of people realize this. It's shift work. So at the time, I was working nights and also I was working weekend days.
Okay.
So night shift is like 3 p.m. to midnight. If you're working a morning shift, that's like 2 a.m. till like 11.
That's a lot of morning.
Yes. I'm sure you remember from being a nurse, those types of shifts too.
That's being on call.
Yes. And then day side is like 9 to 7.
Okay.
Right. So what happens is a lot of times you don't cover a case like soup to nuts, but meaning from the very beginning till there's a conclusion. But with Shane Montgomery's case, it just so happened that, there was a couple of days other reporters covered it, but I really covered the bulk of the story from the very beginning. And then I was even there the day that he was found.
Okay.
And his family was lovely, absolutely lovely.
There are cases, and I've said this before, that case impacted me in many ways, and I'll get into that in a minute. So you have this case, you're on site. Now, I'll speak from the day after he went missing, where a family member picked me up and took me to the site of where he was missing. And they did that because I can follow an energy trail. And I remember the vigil was happening, and I was like, I can't work with the vigil at that time. I didn't want to be disrespectful about walking the scene. So I came back and we did a mediumship circle. That's where Kevin came to work with me, which was Shane's uncle, who was a former police officer. So on your end, because I'm talking about the parallels, you have this case, you're out there reporting, you're interviewing. How do you as a reporter take the case to the public? Like, is there a certain way to handle a missing person's case? Is there certain criteria that you use?
So it's always tricky and it's always difficult too because there's so many missing people, as you know. And so getting it on the news can often be difficult. So the first thing with Shane's case is he, first of all, that used to be the night before Thanksgiving was a big night where everybody went out.
Yes.
Nobody really does that anymore. But that's what Shane was doing in Manioc, and he was from Roxborough. So it wasn't like the whole family knew the area. The family had a long history in Roxborough. His uncle, Kevin, is who the media dealt with as well. He was really like the spokesperson for the family. And so when I got the story, it was because police had alerted us because it was out of character. He was completely vanished. The cards weren't being used, cell phone wasn't being used. But at the time, there wasn't as much surveillance video as there is today, right? Even though it was on a business corridor in Manioc, because he was at a bar. That was the last place that he was at. And so they're going off of eyewitness accounts about which way he went. And I don't know if you remember, but it wasn't until weeks later after his disappearance that then another business was like, oh, yeah, we actually have video too. That but they may not have realized it. They may not, I don't know what the circumstances were. So they call us, we come out. The first things I do is I connect with the family. Who is Shane? What is he like? Is this out of character? And then you try to look for video. That's a big thing with the news reporter. Sometimes we're right up against the police where we're looking for video at the same time
Oh,
as
you
them.
mean from, like, the scene?
Like we knock on doors, we knock
Okay.
on businesses. Can you show us your
They
video?
would not share.
They didn't. I think that whatever they had at that time, they
It's
had
just
already given
limited.
to police,
Yeah,
and it
okay.
was limited. So that's where we started. So the stories really start with who is he? Why is this out of character? And then the struggle for, and I tell this to a lot of families with missing loved ones, is to keep it relevant in the news.
Okay.
So you always have to look for new things. A vigil, for example. There's a vigil tonight. That's something to
Yes.
report on, right? That's something new. Is there more people added to the search? I do remember, and I can't remember everything back then, but I do remember hearing that there was a psychic medium
Uh-huh.
that was brought into the case.
Okay.
But I can't remember if it was like the family said it, but they told us, can you keep this on the down low?
Yes.
I can't remember all of that. It wasn't until I met you,
Uh-huh.
and then we connected the dots,
Right.
which is a whole, I don't wanna go
Yeah.
off, we'll get back to that,
Sure.
but there, and we realized our connection
Was
was on the
Yeah.
Shane Montgomery case.
And so I'll just speak about, so they basically, I have a vetting process that happens where I ask family members to bring in a photograph, uh, preferably of Shane alone, something he may have wore, a lanyard, a phone, a ring. As I say, metal holds on to memories or energy that I see pages within the chapter of somebody's life. And I remember sitting with Kevin the first time, and
Mhm.
he's a good Irishman,
Philly cop.
Billy Cobb,
Yeah.
and love them dearly. But like you're gonna sit with a psychic, you have to earn their respect,
Mhm.
and I understand that. But if you put a wall up of energy, I don't have. I tease my brothers are in construction. I'm not, so knocking the wall down, I don't have the tools or the time. But, so I sat with the vetting process, and there was things that I told him that he was surprised, but I had asked, I said, "Listen," I said, "I wanna be able to work with" that's the psychic part, when I hold on to an object, when I draw pictures. What I was telling him is that I could see Shane come out of the bar or the building, make a right, go across, and then up a hill. And everybody was like, "What? No, he was been drinking. Why would he go right?"
And the eyewitness had said that he went left
Yeah,
at the beginning. Yeah,
right,
sorry,
and
I
it
don't.
no, and it wasn't until weeks later, because that bouncer was so riddled with guilt,
Oh,
that
that's
it
fine.
was that wasn't correct. But the FBI based all of their beginning of the searches on that direction. All the divers headed down 3/4 of a mile on the river to start to look for Shane there.
Mhm.
That's where he went. So I'm sitting with Kevin. I'm being vetted about them holding on to objects. I'm drawing pictures. I'm telling him. And I remember talking about something very specific. It was a column of concrete, and it had like a sewer top, and it had a neon K spray painted on it. I mean, I was specific. They went out and found it. They went, "Wait, how?" Because I said he went out, he went up, and he went, and I could see like this trellis. I don't know if it was a bridge at the time, but I could see that. Uh, so Kevin's like, "Okay, all right." So we go out, and I am now working with Kevin and the detectives on the site. And I went energetically to an area that I felt his presence or felt that he had walked. It's kind of like I'm a scent dog, except for energy. And I go out to this one area and I'm pointing in the river and I go, "Shiny things." Kevin goes, "Shiny." I said, "His keys. I see his keys." And it's in the river. You can't really see it, but I could see it psychically. And now they're thinking, okay, psychic medium has told us these things. Now how do we get the dive team up? In between moving the dive team up, I met with family members, Kevin, and I believe his sister, who was a nurse. I said, "Listen, Kevin's got this energy, Philly cop, and I would like to work on the mediumship side because those that cross over, and I truly don't want to take hope away. I really, really don't. But I wanted to see if there was somebody else on the other side who could either connect me to Shane, because I lovingly say when they cross over, they just got their wings and they're not really good at getting up to the microphone. They'll say like 2 words, and as opposed to someone who's been there for like 5 years, they're like, "Hey, how are you? Good to see you." It's a little bit different energy. Hate to use it that way, but it's kind of like that for communication. And so I think her name was Donna. I think so, and Kevin, and they sat with me, and I thanked her for her energy because it balanced. And I went on to do a mediumship circle where I used their energy and their angels to bring forth Shane.
Mhm.
So his grandmother came forward first, and she was Veronica. She was a wee bit Irish. She was 100%. She says, "I got me boys with me. All three of the boys are here." She had 2 sons that had crossed, and then Shane. And she
Okay.
showed me Shane. I knew Shane showed me that he was honored that they put the sweatshirt at the bar at the stool he had sat at. I did not know this. That came through. I knew tattoos on his back. I knew other things about Veronica and the family that you can't Google, and I'm not sure Google was around at that
Yeah.
time. But and truly, with all that information, I then Shane showed me where he was, and I could smell the rocks. I knew I was at in the river, and for some reason, Annie, and I still to this day don't understand this, but I've seen this happen with other psychic mediums, is that I get a picture and then it's the opposite. It's like
A mirror.
exactly. And so left is right and right is left. And I drew the map and I remember Kevin taking it and going out. And so on the your side, you were at the vigil, I think. You were covering the bar. There were so many
Mhm.
people that were at the bar, and then covering with police and looking at um, the video. How did you get to the point of knowing, like, fill in any gaps that you saw there?
Well, for starters, I think as the investigations, and this is as a whole, any missing persons investigations, as it progresses, again, you're trying to look for what's new. And it's sad because hope diminishes as you go on. I do remember that there was a private search team and I also say this, that Kevin, his uncle, you need somebody, you need an advocate, right? And Kevin was the best advocate that Shane could have had, because I remember there was a private search team that came in, and that made it new
Yes.
again as well. And also, just because everybody loved this family, they were Catholic, and there was a church in Roxborough they had
Yeah.
gone to a long time. And just as a side note too, I have feelings,
Uh-huh.
and so I get
Yeah.
feel connections to people. I mean, it just is what it is. And for some reason, this family had a lot of connections. The priest, Father Kelly, ended up becoming the priest for my now partner's
Yeah.
mom's parish in
Uh-huh.
Delco. And then when I went through some very public things that weren't great in Philadelphia, it was Kevin who reached out to me to say, "We're praying for you."
Mm.
And so there was just something about this family and these kids that you could tell their energy. A lot of people wanted to help them.
Yeah.
So I think that that is what was such a big part of keeping the story is the amount of people, the search teams, the organization, the private search teams that came in. So I think that that's really what helped carry the story along. But I do remember the day when they found him, and I remember people again talking about this psychic medium. Now, if there's a psychic medium, I want to say that's the headline, right? I believe, I feel connected to that. And now again, you and I didn't know each other yet.
Mhm.
Can I tell them how we made the connection?
Sure.
Am I going to go off on a tangent? So, months later, my stepfather had died, and I came to you for a reading.
Okay.
And at the end of the reading, I didn't tell you what I did. And I went to school for music, and I sang. So every time they said there was a microphone, that might have been my opportunity to say to you, "Oh, by the way, I hold a microphone every day at work while I'm on television." But I didn't say that. And at the very end, you brought it up again. And I said what I did. And you said, "Oh, this person." And it was Shane.
Yes.
Like you could see that you and I had this.
Yeah, the cases that you worked on. Because
Yeah.
I don't watch the news.
Hmm.
And because if I watch the news, I see Andy McCormick in front of, let's say, the bar, and then I will see in the background Shane leaving the bar. It's almost like I see what transpired while I'm watching the news. If there's a robbery, if there's a murder, I see what transpired. So
Mhm.
I don't watch the news. No offense.
No, none taken, yeah.
So it was interesting that we ended up through that personal side realizing because Father John Stabino ran a comfort club. He was a good Italian boy, Catholic priest, and he knew Shane's priest.
Father Kelly.
Yes,
Yes.
and so the 2 of them talked, and he's like, "No, she's the real deal, like, seriously," and I mean, to get validation from a priest was lovely, but
Yes,
that's
and
how
Father Kelly's a tough guy.
well,
So he needed somebody that
it
yeah,
it was
he's
it
not gonna let anybody in, yeah.
right, so, it was fabulous, and I'm forever grateful that Father John spoke on my behalf. Uh, so you get to the point of the case where now you're out there with it because Kevin had said to me that it was 2 weeks worth of time.
Mhm,
And it was cold, it was bitter cold, it was January, and he was like, the FBI was fighting with the police about when to move the resources, and why are we not listening to her? And she has, like, she has credibility, this is not what does it hurt to bring the teams up? Because Philadelphia has its own dive team, and you get into a part where there's limited resources, and then sometimes I don't wanna say that gets to be I've seen it happen a lot where, it's a local case, Kevin's connected, obviously, former police officer, and the Philly cops wanna, but the FBI's now. And so what resources are used and who gets credit.
mhm.
This happens. Did you see any of that on that Kevin spoke of it. Is there any reporting that you did on it? Do you
I
remember?
don't remember us reporting on that. I do remember though, I mean, as a reporter, you do notice that when a different search team comes in
Yeah.
to help, I mean, because here's the thing, Philly only has so many resources and they also have so many missing people
Right.
that I could see. So I don't ever remember the push and pull. That doesn't say that it
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
happening. It's just something that we weren't reporting on. But I do remember when he was found because, there's so many cases I've covered that there's never any conclusion. And so even though it's a horribly sad conclusion, it is still nice that this family had that so that they could move on. But I always remember about the keys. And that day is what they kept talking about
Really?
was the keys, the keys, the keys, and it was glistening in the sun.
I
Like
I kept saying, "Shiny thing, shiny thing."
yeah.
And Kevin's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "His keys are right here." And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "They're right here. You can see that?" I said, "It's his keys are right there." And that was the link for them to bring the divers up. He just had to get one I think it was Philadelphia that went and retrieved the keys.
Mhm.
And then we're like, "Holy shit. Maybe there's, pardon my French, something to this, that if she's saying time and time again, she's been right, and then points to the keys, we're not even close to where he is."
Mhm.
And, um, and so I remember Kevin using the map, and I could see a bridge, I could see an outcropping, and I said he was on the left, but they found him on the right.
Mhm.
And as a nurse, a mom, and a medium, I know how important it is to bring them home. So
Yeah.
grieving can actually start because, like you said, so many cases of missing persons, they don't recover their remains, and so it's a suspended grief is what I call it,
Mhm.
you know, um, so then you cover the funeral, the
We didn't I remember that was really my last stop on
that
it.
was
I will say that if, you're talking about trying to keep missing persons cases relevant, if you have the tidbit that there is a psychic medium working on it, to me, I think that's another way to get it back in the news. Like, hey, the way I look at that
yeah,
is this family is doing every single thing that they possibly can
yeah,
do on within this world or outer world to try to find their loved one. Now, I can't imagine Action News or another, I'm not singling out Action News, but a television news station starting, the broadcast with, because they don't, there's a, I don't know what you would call
a
it, but
bias?
a bias. Yeah, there's a bias to say, oh, a psychic medium, like, Is that
Got this all
but
right.
yeah,
And
I believe
and
so.
and that's the thing, like, my mom, who was doing this 40 plus years ago and helped with federal, state, and local, with cases that I often think, and I talked about this today at lunch with a dear friend, that maybe because they had less resources or less technology then, they were more open to working with a psychic medium than they are now.
I could see that. There
Because
was
there's
less
DNA,
video,
there's
yeah, now
there's more
DNA.
video, there's DNA, there's thermal, there's all of this, all of those boxes and technology that they need to check before they get to psychic medium, where their list was shorter and they were more apt to work sooner maybe with
Mhm,
a psychic medium. But I find it interesting that is still a bias. I thought my mom had it far harder than I would. And I never, when I work a case, I never want to know anything. Keep me pristine. I don't want to know anything. Any signs, any sounds, anything. Just give me my stuff that I asked for, the things that I wanna hold on to, because I am human,
mhm,
and this has an impact on me. I carry Shane's case with me on any because that was the first case that, um he was the same age as my daughter.
mhm,
And so my mom, I never understood why my mom would be sometimes more protective at different points in my life. And now reflectively, it's because she was working on a case of somebody who was close to my age.
mhm.
And that's why she got possessive or just more, yes, close about my whereabouts, what I'm doing. Like, yeah. But Shane's case I forever take with me. The family, he, Kevin was beautiful. He did not have to say this to the Inquirer, but he had said for, if we had listened to Kim, we would have brought him home 2 weeks sooner.
Mhm,
And I thought, how sweet of him to say that. Truly, truly, truly. And even moving forward as using them as a resource for my CV, they've been very kind and open to speaking to the authorities and saying, "This is what she did, and you'd be a fool not to use her." So I'm forever thankful. I really am.
and just like with the news that there's a spectrum of understanding of, psychics and playing a part in investigative techniques, there's also a spectrum among investigators. There's some that are like, "Hey, we'll use anybody. You wanna come along? Alright, no problem. I believe I don't know, whatever,
Yeah.
help us." Then there's the one that's like, "No way. I'm against that." And so there's people that are indifferent, either against, and there's people that are totally open to it and believe. So it's like it's with everything, you
Yeah,
know?
I've met FBI. Well, John Edwards, we find out, has been working with an FBI agent for 25 years,
Mhm.
working on cases. And and uh and so, he had to prove his worth, so to speak, and told them things that no one would know. And it's like, okay. And I often tell people, listen, just because you haven't seen it or experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Mhm.
And that's why having an open mind, that's all I ask. Come with an open mind and a little bit of open energy, and let me work and use that. I give the authorities pieces to the puzzle, if you will, to help put the case together. They're trained to solve the case. I just give you those pieces. And so let's move to the next case where there's some pieces of a puzzle,
Mhm.
uh, and talk about your book, which is fabulous. And the title of your first book is?
The Doctor, the Hitman, and the Motorcycle Gang.
And that came out in press.
In 2020, it was
Okay.
when it was published, yeah.
Which, it's a fascinating tale, it really is, and share with us
So
about that.
you're mentioned in the book on page 60 to be exact. And so part of it is because in 2015, when I first came to you, when we made the connection
Mhm.
about Shane Montgomery, at the end of the reading, I had started working on April's story in 2013. So April was murdered on May 10th, 2012. She was found shot to death in her bedroom. What prosecutors ultimately came to the conclusion of is that her husband, who was a very prominent doctor, endocrinologist, Dr. Jim Kaufman, he was running several Medicare fraud schemes out of his office, and additionally a pill mill with the Pagan Motorcycle Gang. And he solicited a member of the Pagan Motorcycle Gang to help him find a hitman to kill his wife, and they say that he was successful in doing that. So
I mean, that That's a lot,
Yeah, it's a lot.
but and that thus your title, which is
Yes.
perfect for it. So, what happened when you showed me a picture?
So so you had, unbeknownst to me, I don't think I realized this, even though I'm close with April's daughter, we
Yeah.
became very close friends, Kim Pack. She had come to you.
Uh-huh.
And I came to you at the end of my reading in 2015. I said, "Hey, I'm kind of working on
Yeah.
something. Can you?" And you said that there were two people in the house, one was watching. And I get chills, like thinking about it right now.
Okay.
And you, as you sketch, if you haven't had a reading with Kim Durham, you often take and you write a map or you
Uh-huh.
sketch something. You
Kind of how
sketch
I work on cases.
Yeah, you sketched the house, and at the time, there was a lot of information that you were giving that wasn't in the news yet.
Yep.
So people that now maybe say, "Oh, well, look at her book and look at," but like none of that was out for years. And there was stuff that I was hearing as early as 2013
Okay.
that never came to the light of day
Okay.
until 2018, 2020.
Okay.
And so you basically walked me through the house, and I'm like, "How does she know this house looks like? How does she know this? How does she know that?" There weren't listings yet. There weren't, rental listings to even look at it. And yeah, and you pretty much you convinced me something I always thought was possible was that he was there, that Jim Kaufman was there when it happened. And the reading that you had with Kim, I remember Kim relaying that to me as well, which was truly, truly fascinating. And so,
And I will just say this, when I didn't directly work on this case, it came
mhm,
about circumventing, uh, but when I, as a physical medium, work on cases, I see through the victim's eyes, describe the crime scene, and it's kind of like virtual reality goggles. So now, um, and I don't play a lot of video games, but it's kind of like that.
mhm,
So you're looking from the point of the Call of Duty guy or whatever, like,
mhm,
I'm walking through that space. So they'll have me walk through the space, like the case I worked in Detroit, where I could see 2 shooters, and I could feel which bullet hit me where and describe that. Describe the people shooting, what they had, and what it did to me. So, that often happens when people sit with me and they've been, unalived. They'll show me what happened to them, or the circumstances, and then so I didn't realize that this her mother had been murdered, and that the way that she was coming through to me, she was describing the crime scene.
mhm,
Yes, and I thank you for that validation of
mhm.
it. It's a really interesting book. It twists and turns. I'm surprised you don't have a movie yet on it. I really am. I'll make a prediction because that is really something remarkable. And so, Andy, you're working on a few other books
Mhm.
coming out now. Tell me about your book number two.
So book number 2 comes out, in the spring. It's a historical true crime, so we're going back 100 years. I grew up in Morristown, New Jersey, in Burlington County, and it is about 2 socialites that were found shot and dying in a mansion in Morristown, if you're familiar with Morristown on Chester Avenue. And there was an
And you had said Chester Avenue is like Millionaire's Row.
Yes.
Okay.
In the 20s, so this happened in 1929,
Ooh.
and in the 20s, I mean, a lot of the homes in Morristown are built all the way back in the 1600s, 1700s. This one, I believe, was built in early 1900. But there's beautiful homes and, very well-to-do family. The father of the young lady that lived there, he had a big part in building Camden, big part in bringing the Ben Franklin Bridge.
Bridge? Oh,
Um,
yes.
like very prominent. They were very connected politically too. So when his daughter and her former fiance were both found shot and dying in the bedroom, they knew the prosecutor was a good family friend. He comes in, bada boom, bada bing, it's a murder suicide.
Just
Well,
tried to sweep it under the rug.
is it a
Well,
murder
this is true.
suicide?
Yeah, we'll
You
leave
might know.
that, because it was something interesting you shared that in a locked bedroom, murder-suicide, the gentleman was found with 4 bullet holes.
In the head, yeah.
So that typically is unusual, we
Yes.
shall say, for that. And so the case takes twists and turns.
3 years later, their childhood friend who grew up in the house a block away, like it would be like catty corner, another beautiful home on Chester Avenue. He's found murdered in his home where he moved with his wife and young daughter to Cinnaminson,
Uh-huh.
but just straight shot out of Morristown. He's found also in a locked room, shot to death. And initially, the investigator, who was the same investigator in the 1929 case, says, oh, he killed himself,
Oh, here's another.
even though he's shot multiple times. And then that investigation takes on, and I don't want to give away the ending,
That's right.
but it basically brings back the 1929 case back open,
Uh-huh.
and everybody in Morristown and realize also back in the 20s, like, what do you have for, and I hate, these are real people, these are real lives, and you want to get to the bottom of what's happening, but it also brings a lot of, I don't want to use the word entertainment, but it's people are chatting about it and there's the gossip
Well,
about
truly,
it.
I
And
mean, truly at that time, everyone read newspapers,
yep.
and so these reports are coming out, and it's a small town.
Hmm.
They're all well known, well connected through money, and of course, this would be the talk of who done it, right?
Yeah.
For that time period. Um,
And a lot of, finger
yeah,
pointing and, and then everybody has, then there's like weird coincidences that always happen. And,
you'll highlight some of those in the book.
yes,
I don't want to.
exactly.
I know we get to talking, and I don't want to give it away because
Yeah.
I truly, it's a true crime. But it has a historical fact about it, and I can't wait until it comes out. Do we know where we can get that book at this
Yeah,
point?
so I don't have pre-orders just yet. It should be in a couple weeks. I should have them. You can always head to all of my social media, Annie McCormick TV on Instagram, my Facebook, my TikTok. I'll have all of that out there, but it will be available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, at local bookstores. Yeah, all the usual places that the Doctor, the Hitman, and the Motorcycle Gang has been at as well.
Well, I
You've
can't
been able to
wait to
get it.
read it,
Thank you.
and I know you have another book that you're working on.
Starting, yeah,
Yeah,
starting to work on very interesting case.
and
That
I would
too.
love to have you back to talk about that as well.
Absolutely.
So again, thank you so much for being a part of talking about what it's like to work on this case. Good luck with flipping the page. You're one of those people that I resonated with when I saw you on, because you bring this hometown feel to any case that you work on. There's this empathy that comes across through the screen. So I am thrilled.
Thank you.
You're
It means
welcome.
a lot.
That you're now flipping the page and you're going to bring that same kind of insight to your writing, for sure. I saw that in your first book. Can't wait to read the second one. Have you back for the third. Thank you so much, Annie, for being a part of Mediumship Moments. And as always, this is Kim Durham, psychic medium, wishing you and your angels that you keep chatting with them because they can hear you.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time for another episode of Mediumship Moments. If you enjoyed this episode of Kim's podcast, check her out on Instagram and TikTok at Kim Durham Medium.